we're trying to parse wheat and tares. And I'm using a biblical reference because I think it's sort of a word picture of what we're struggling with here, which is wheat and tares look identical.
Yeah.
Right. But one's a wheat and one's, a wheat. And so they're different, but they look the same. So here we are, the two of us, trying to deconstruct our history with broken clay vessels who seem to have things happen that could be God, were good. People's lives were blessed, touched, good things happen. And at the same time, really bad things happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we unpack this, right? And so I think one of the things I appreciate about our conversations is we're like two guys trying to look at something going, what was that? Like, what did we see? What was this? And what's hard about a lot of it is you actually have to drill down and get to the root of it, right?
Right.
It's, as I've said before, it gets down to the nature of a thing, right? A wheat and a tare seed probably look identical, right? But one's a wheat, one's a tare, right? They grow up, they even look alike. But what's the nature of this thing? And so that's where I've been trying to deconstruct my life and looking back at some of this. And then I realized that, gosh, like good and bad, good and evil, they all are happening at the same time.
Oh, yeah. And
right? The same guys that were absolutely setting people free from their own inner demons, so to speak, were the same guys being manipulative and controlling people.
Oh, yeah. And, you have to humanize it also because I'm certain it was this way maybe after you left in Kansas City and maybe while you were there, but the way that these men have projected their image and their stage persona, they become greater than human. And to the eyes of the people, these guys are the next thing to God. They call them the apostles and whatnot. But it's a human problem. We have, in these movements, we have taken the personalities of the people and associated them to God. And so it's one or the other. It's either all on or all off. And you could take a person who spent an entire life doing really good deeds, helping the poor. Their entire life, if you were to sum it up, was good things. But they had this one moment in their life where they did a really, really bad thing. Maybe nobody was looking and they stole some money. Well, in the way that they teach the people in these cults, these two can't coexist. The person is either all good or they've never done bad, or they're all bad. But one of the ways I try to explain it when I'm working with people offline, and it's kind of a semi-heretical thing to say, so I'm going to be cautious how I say this. But the Apostle Paul was a human, and we regard him as an apostle. And if you read the Bible, you can read about the Apostle Paul. But say that he did something like this. Well, he's still a human. It doesn't mean that everything that he said was bad. It means that this one thing that happened, if it happened, would be bad. Because he is a human, like I'm a human. But this religion has trained the minds to think of apostles as this higher status than a human, and they can do no wrong. Well, that's simply not true. Then, further amplify the problem, these guys have created stage personas for themselves where they want to stay in that level where they're above everybody else. And so they enjoy when people are looking up to them. Well, once they get to that level, nobody can live perfectly. You're human. So you're going to make mistakes. Now, that's not to say that, the issues with Bickle are obviously long-standing, and there's a lot more than just a single incident. But what I'm trying to say is we have to humanize the person to understand the problem that we're about to address, which we'll get into further.
Well, even Paul admitted in Romans, I do things I don't want to do. Like he was struggling with his own humanity, right? He was like, I do stuff I don't want to do. I'm going to add to your thought here, because I think there's two sides to this equation that creates the problem. On the one side, what you talked about is the, broken clay vessels who are insecure, who want to be adored and be seen as, elite or at a different plane or whatever, right? But the other side of the equation is we humans have this need, it seems, for heroes. And so I think it's a combination of two things, because it's not just in the church world, right? I mean, if you look at social media, I wrote about this. If you look at social media, the most popular people on Instagram that are being followed are people who are doing nothing to change or better the world. They're all people who are living this idyllic, well, perceived idyllic life, right? And they're all famous and they sing, or they're movie stars or whatever, right? And so, you have 30 million people following every move they make every day. And so I think this is particularly true in the Christian community as well. It's like, I know we're supposed to be different, but we're really not. I mean, that's one of the, at my age now, as I look back over things, it's like, actually, we're just a Christian veneer, because underneath we're just the same people as everybody outside our community, driven by all the same problems and needs and desires, right? And so we have the same need for spiritual heroes.
Yeah.
And so you take that combination of this human need, for, a deliverer, messiahs, right? People that are going to come and save us from our ordinariness, people who we can live vicariously through and pretend we're somebody we're not, or whatever all the motivations are. We do that. So you take people that need heroes with people who want to be heroes, and what do you have? A mess. It's a collision, really.
Yeah. And then to further complicate this, which we talked briefly, and maybe we'll explore it a bit more, but the humans themselves are so complex. And so we're talking specifically in this podcast about the unusual things, the prophecies, etc. Well, you can study this, and there are various studies if you just search on the internet, but people who have mental health conditions often have unusual things happen to them. Are they supernatural? I don't know. Many of the books ask the question, is it? Could it be? And you look at, some of the people who were regarded as non-Christian prophets. Some of them had some issues, mentally. And so there is this weird connection. It doesn't, for me, I still go back and forth between, do they really have some gift, or are they like the examples that I'm aware of? Are they just saying random things because they're half crazy, and people are assuming that the half crazy things are coming to pass?